A win was the perfect Sixth Day present with a bonus point in the stocking, too. It's time to start harping on rugby. Hello, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to Harpin On Rugby, where with the help of some fellow fans, I get the chance to harp on what's going on with Leinster, Ireland, and the wider rugby world. First up, joining me is the current runaway leader in the Harpin Prediction League and our resident statistics maestro. Starting to think those two things might be related somehow. Anyway, back for his 39th cap is Mr. Keano Miller. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having us, Jeff. Yeah, there are very few things in this life that can't be solved with either data, beer, or both.
Exactly. And also with us is someone returning for his sixth Harpin cap. Hello again to Mr. Hugo Gordon.
Thanks very much for having me back, Jeff.
No problem. Great having you both on. Okay, let's crack on with our feature match of the week, which was, of course, Ireland v England in round one of the 2025 Guinness Men's Six Nations Championship. It was played at the Aviva Stadium on Saturday, February the 1st. I myself was at a wedding in Athy when this was being played. Congrats and many thanks to Peter and Catherine, by the way. But unfortunately, we only got to properly watch the first 15 minutes before being called into dinner. So as I was straining to look over the heads of people in front of me in the hotel bar, I just managed to see Marcus Smith kicking off towards the south stand for England, Keano.
Yeah, England kicked short on the kickoff and regather, and Marcus Smith went for a stabbing kick in behind, doesn't quite come off. First Irish lineout then of 23, and 23 lineouts. Tommy Bovoice, 23 lineouts. Highest number of lineouts with 100% retention since the Six Nations became the Six Nations in 2000. So in 25 years. England up fast in defence and barge heavily at the ruck. The kind of set the pattern there of heavy rush with kicks into the channel after three passes, kind of sets out their stall for what they were going to do for the entire match, to be honest. First big defensive work of the game. Numbers got involved, try and win retained rucked over ball. Left with 13 players, kind of on just on the right hand side of the pitch. It was very much a danger zone. Aki and Lowe have the two on the very outside, two English players on the very outside, marked with Jameson Gibson Park tracking across behind. Smith spots the gap, takes it, but he's through to the 22, but Keenan gets him down. Numbers arrive, we realign. They recycle quickly, move the ball wide, but Smith's kind of attempted cross kick then just drifts straight into touch. And again, it's a bit of a pattern. Was that Ireland's defence was actually quite good throughout. There was a couple of breaks. I mean, breaks happen, but the scrambling behind was good, and the defensive realignment was good, and that kind of held true for most of the game. Line out, Prendergast's chip over the top from inside our own 22 was bold as hell for what was pretty much close, which was pretty close to his first touch in the game. Whatever else, as anyone who saw that rugby pass pick knows, the lad has balls. Wayward pass.
I will not be sharing that on the website. Find it yourself.
Black bar across it there. Yeah. So wayward pass ends the play for Ireland, though. Again, a feature of the half, unfortunately. Hansen blood sub. Henshaw comes in. He clashed with Murley in the air while contesting a high ball. I couldn't see any blood when he came off, but apparently it was enough for the refereeing team. So Henshaw filled in at 13. Ring rose out to the wing. Great that we have that flexibility. Ireland struggled to exit, to be honest, up until about 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the game. A ton of line speed pressure from England really affected Prendergast's kicks from hand. His first clearance doesn't get touch, allows England to counterattack. They gain 20 metres before Ireland's defence resets. Second kick lands directly in the hands of Stewart, who returns with a 30-metre carry, which is a bit of a killer. Breaking two tackles before we scramble and recover. England maintained possession inside our half, and sustained pressure on that defensive line. They really had their purple patch was the first 10 minutes. And unfortunately, that ended with them getting a try. It really did pay off. Smith broke through our line midfield defence. Offload to Lawrence, pass to Slade. Slade executes what was really quite a nice, well-weighted grubber into the channel, and Keenan tries to block it with his foot. It bobbles over. He's turning. That's an absolute coach killer. You can't do anything. If you're turning, you're losing. It's an awful situation. So Murley collects and finishes in the corner, and Smith nails what's actually a fairly difficult kick from the sideline. So it's kind of a dream start for them. And that was kind of where the dream ended a little bit for England. They did keep going, but that was really their best chance, their best nailed on chance of scoring, and they pulled it off. But they needed more than that, and as we know, it didn't really come about. They knock on from the restart, which was great. We finally get a foothold into their half, 12 minutes into the game. Uh, we secure the ball, bit messy. Prendergast picks out a player in a good position with a fine zippy pass, and England concede a penalty. Again, we're talking about themes that we see throughout the rest of the game. This time was a ruck penalty. There were a number of they really spread them out across a number of different laws they decided to break. Ireland entered the 22. It's a little off kilter, and the last pass fails to come off again. Thematic. Tap and go from an England offside centre. Sorry, tap and go from an England offside penalty. Itoje was clearly offside at the tap after not retreating back, but that was completely ignored. Didn't really matter as they had about two or three other penalties in that defensive stand, and they get their first warning. We had difficulty scoring in this half, and an awful lot of it came down to repeat penalties. Like they had the penalties committed graph up at one point, and the England penalties were dot 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 dot. They were all clustered together whenever we got the 22 entries. I think, to be honest, if it wasn't a Southern Hemisphere referee, they might have suffered a bit more from being told to go away in a hack. That literally the only way they were controlling the game was to.
Yeah, I think Paul Williams said in the France match on Friday. He said, "Well, you're on a warning like 30 minutes ago, but you stopped, and now you're doing it again. So now you're on a new warning. So you can recycle the warning, I guess, after a while."
Yeah, I didn't know there was clocks on the warnings now as much
Yeah,
as anything else. Yeah. So yeah, 16 minutes in, Ireland disallowed try. Go for the top again. Kelleher crashes over from close range. TMO review confirms that Byrne has illegally held onto a toe. It's like, look, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. In fairness, it was the right call. It's one of the lesser seen little dark art things that happens in every game. Of course, players are held in off the ruck in every game. And Itoje is certainly not an innocent of that himself. But in this case, the TMO decided to call it. It was correct. And yeah, England get the penalty. The lesser spotted dark arts. England kicked halfway. Matt comes back on. Nice bit of line out defence here and makes a mess of their possession. England capitalised on a loose ball and spread it wide. Freeman crossing in the corner. But it had already been called on. That's knocked on by Itoje. A lot of messy ball in this half for both teams. A lot of messed up. I mean, England were absolutely doing their best to mess up every ruck, and Barge and Ireland were kind of returning the favour. So, let's see. It was from there, 90 minutes in, it was a nice crossfield kick from Prendergast, finds Lowe on the wing, who kind of clips it down the wing in a single movement from catch to foot to ball. It was a nice little thing. Came to nothing. It was a nice little moment, and for me, it was kind of where I saw Prendergast start to find his feet a little bit more. That he had been under huge pressure. The gas had started going out of the England line speed a little bit, kind of 20 minutes in. It was more notable then as the half wore on as well. But I think the extra half a second that Prendergast was getting was giving him enough space to start getting away the kicks from hand that were in trouble early on. 20 minutes in, you had that clear out on Byrne. To be honest, from the angle available, went through it in slow-mo. It doesn't look like there's direct contact to the head. You won't know for sure without the reverse angle, but honestly, I can see why they probably reviewed it. It was probably fine from the other angle, and there was nothing from it. It was just a really strong double clear out.
but the still picture I saw on the internet says otherwise. Keno, come on.
I know.
I mean, when you weigh it up,
Yeah, it's a Zapruder tapes back into the left and all
Yeah.
that. So then, yeah, 20 minutes in, that Aki tap that stopped Freeman getting a clear run down the right wing was absolutely class. I love that. Aki had been a little bit quiet in the first 20 minutes or so, but he did warm up into the game and ended up having an absolute stormer. And again, talking about the teams, that was kind of the tale for Ireland as well. We did have to warm up and get into the game. England got a flyer of a start. We did less so. Be a little bit spooked. But well, no, actually, I think spooked is wrong. I think we kind of had to wear their high line speed, high pressure, and we just had to hunker down and bear that for the kind of 10, 20 minutes, and then things started shifting. Another nice moment, actually, a low sweeper kick from low in the middle of the pitch, just kind of bounces end over end past Stewart. They don't always work, but when they do, they can be absolutely they can be game changers. So I'd be slow to say it wasn't worth doing. It was funny actually listen to the commentator going, "Oh no, he shouldn't have kicked it into the middle field and then bounces past." I was like, "Oh, actually, that worked out quite well." Oh, yeah. The bounce of the ball can get you sometimes. The bounce of the ball can get you sometimes. Yeah, that's rugby. Literally, you've described the entire sport in one sentence. So yeah, kick back to low. From there, Prendergast gets a decent clearance away. Again, yeah, growing into it a little bit. The kicks are starting to find a little space a little bit better. They're starting to be a bit more accurate. 23 minutes in, Stewart beats Keenan in the air from Marcus Smith up and under. Honestly, I thought we'd have seen more up and unders from England before this point. They really seem to be going for the kicks down the channels when they were between the halfway and the 22 rather than go for the contestable kicks, which surprised me a lot given that they'd gone with Stewart a fullback. I thought this was the game plan was send him herring down. He's a big lad. He's really good in the air. Keenan, really good in the air, but more of a breadbasket than a GAA catcher and not as big as Stewart. So, but nonetheless, Stewart did well to win that one. Nothing came of it in the end. They were carrying to the line again, but Byrne got a fine poach. They didn't carry much. Really, the England strategy here was kick and chase heavy. And in fairness, Mark Smith, he's good with boot to ball. He really is. And he was pretty good in the first half of this game, and he got the card, and then magic trick, he vanished from the game. Look, he's young out half as well, and international rugby is not a friendly place. It can be tough to go off, and during that period, then they conceded the try, and he possibly blamed himself a little bit for that. Then, because that was a key moment. But anyway, we'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, from yet another line out, 24 minutes in, Kelleher goes for a well executed long overthrow to Bundy. We didn't go to the middle at all in the line out. Again, with the Toje there, I can understand why. I think it was about 70 to 80% front. I think we went 2 or 3 to the back, and then there was 1 or 2 long overthrows. It's nice to see the kind of couple of wrinkles thrown in. Don't think we've given anything huge away in the line out in terms of the rest of the Six Nations. But yeah, enough wrinkles put in there. But with one real defensive jumper on there, and I'm not surprised we came out of it with 100%. So yeah, Kelleher goes and throws the long overthrow to Bundy, phases. Prendergast draws Smith and Pup Hansen through the gap. That was nicely executed. And this is kind of more starting to see the attacking involvements that Prendergast can do, ball in hand, bringing you to the line. He passes outside, and we get one of my favorite things, which is Baird on the break. I love a Baird on the break. We all know this now. It takes 3 defenders to put him down, kind of within 5 of the try line, and yeah, then yet another infringement in the 22 by the English. And this time, the referees decided, yeah, he's had the word, and he's not going to have another word, and that's a yellow card for Marcus Smith for being offside. Unfortunately, we're not able to make anything of that. Again, yet another theme for the half is us getting into the 22 and going away with absolutely zip. Should we have taken some of those as 3? Yeah, absolutely. We should have taken some 3s. 100%. I'm a huge believer in cup rugby, especially in competition. And to spurn them as many times as we did was not great. So, yeah, the opportunity goes not penalty for crossing against Porter, taking the ball in behind Ryan. Again, it's that kind of last pass, the last detail. that's going against us. And I was worried at this stage that those were really going to cost us. England clear it down the line. Hansen takes it quickly. Keenan brings it to the line. Prendergast makes another good probing kick under pressure right into the England channel. Bundy chasing well. Unfortunately, I mean that kind of went into general play, but it was a nice moment. An England line out overthrow, an error one. Ireland take it to ground, and a Prendergast and Bundy do a Sexton loop and gives Prendergast the break on the edge, getting to show his skills with ball in hand. Took the edge, got it to Keenan, who unfortunately isn't able to get the pass away to Ringrose. It was so close. Goes through the phase of Slade, forces a knock on from Bundy in the 22. You don't see that very often. Fair play to him. England clear their lines. 33 minutes in, back into their 22, and again come away with nothing. Yellow period is running out, and it's starting to feel grim at this point. Despite playing all the rugby in their half and multiple opportunities in their 22, we've come away with nothing each time. Like it's still a nil on the scoreboard, and at that point, you're half an hour in. You want something on the scoreboard. You want something to be able to hang your hat on and go, look, we're within touching distance, but 7-0 is not great. Should be noted, at this point, the England players they were blowing hard. The all-out line speed defensive approach starting to show on them at this point. And then the moment from a line out, it's a bit messy. We've possession on the right-hand side of the pitch. Ireland set up the box kick, but Prendergast calls a play to Gibson Park. So instead of box kicking, he passes out left, basically attacking shape. Baird in a pot of 3 at the front, and Prendergast in the boot behind. Byrne runs front door option. Ringrose is positioned a little bit wider. Ball goes to Prendergast to Ringrose. Ringrose fires a skip pass over the edge defender Mitchell to Lowe, who breaks down the left, fends off Mitchell's tackle, and offloads inside to Gibson Park. Now, Gibson Park still got work to do. He feigns that break to the left, forcing Stewart to commit that side. Steps back inside him and finishes the try. Finally, everything comes together in a row. The last pass sticks. Unfortunately, the conversion was missed. Now, I think it was the shot clock. I would call it on this one. The shot clock got to him. It's the one kick I think I'd actually be annoyed about out of this game. It's the one I think he definitely should have made. There was another one from the far touch. Sorry, from the near touch. That's a tough kick. That's a very tough kick. I wouldn't begrudge him that. A few minutes back and forth in midfield. A lot of England players taking knees at this point. And then Earl makes a dominant carry into Ireland's 22. And then at a subsequent ruck, Van der Fleur is slow to move away from the wrong side. Again, slowing down the ruck just to make sure we get our defensive line in place. Gets called out. Their phases come to naught, and Smith slots the penalty from 22 metres out, extending their lead to 10-5. So, England did well to take their chances with the try, but other than the defensive lapse for their try and giving away a penalty for the 3, Ireland were better in defence than I remembered watching it live first time. Handled their aerial threats well enough. Plenty of 22 entries generated. It was just that last pass, that last moment that you need to come together to get the try, but still finished within touching distance. So, Ireland 5, England 10.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say England would have, going into the game, would have taken that halftime score. I mean, this is the thing from England over the past few years is that they're learning to be underdogs now. You know, I mean, there were times we played them in the past when they would technically be underdogs, but they'd still have that kind of, well, we're England kind of arrogance, and they'd come in and say, we're just going to play our way anyway. And it didn't always work, but now they were ready to play us the way we played, and they were trying to stop us. And we kind of knew it was going to happen, but they still did it, and they still did it effectively, literally from the kickoff. And like you say, that first 10 minutes, we couldn't buy our way out of our half. And they were varying it with the kicks. They had stabs, they'd kick passes, they'd Gary Owens. They were doing it all different ways, and Smith is good at that. So it was working well, and they eventually it led to a try for them. Like you say, when you put it there that accurately, it's very difficult for turning defenders to get it. So that was a good finish. But even then, It took them a full 10 minutes to do it, and it was right in the corner. Now they did get the conversion, but I mean, how many times have we watched both Leinster and Ireland over the years conceding the first score under pressure from the start against a team that's motivated, it's got a plan, and the plan works for 10 minutes. But sure, we haven't even had the ball yet. And once we started getting into their half, and I know we struggled. I mean, on the one hand, it was great with the lineouts, it was brilliant. It's like the lineouts, the lineouts was just a constant source of possession and platforms. But from then on, the England defense, like you say, they were relying on their line speed to stop us, and they were getting us again and again and again. But eventually, it was that step. I mean, like someone like Gibson Park does that step so naturally. It's not. It doesn't even have to think about it. He knows what he's going to do from the minute he gets the ball. He's thinking, "I'm going to bring him this way. I'm going to step. I'm going to go that way." And he went over his performances. You look at everyone talking about Dupont from the night before. Of course, Dupont is way up there, but Gibson Park is just so close to him. He'd be the greatest of all time if there was no Dupont, and we don't say it often enough. And moments like that just show it. But to having done that, finally gotten the score, and you can see the penalty with the last kick was a little bit of a kick in the teeth. But sure, at least we'd gotten on the scoreboard, and we knew we could fix things at halftime. What did you think of it, Hugo?
Yeah, so I mean, I was pretty I was in a pretty bad mood at halftime. And actually, one of the kind of interesting things, you when you're watching it live, obviously you don't know what's happening next, and you kind of start seeing the worst possible scenario. I found the first 10 minutes very alarming, where they did seem to be able to kind of make fairly easy inroads into our 22 in a way was actually they didn't for the rest of the game, but obviously you don't know that at the time. I found the remaining half an hour of the half largely very frustrating. As Cian said, we were in their half, we were in their 22 for so much of that half. And we were seeing shades, I think, of what we saw in the autumn, which is, having the possession, having the territory, and then balls not going to hand, kind of slightly panicked looking in attack sometimes, just things just not working out. As much as, we were getting a lot of ball off the line out, actually, our maul was getting very little all game. That didn't really change, actually, even in the second half. And it felt like kind of Wall was a source of possession, actually, not necessarily something we were doing a whole lot with. Very disappointing that, we didn't kind of take advantage of those early chances. And as the kind of the clock was ticking down on the yellow card, I was quite worried because we were still, we still had a big 0 next to our name on the scoreboard, and it just felt like, sooner or later, if we weren't going to take these chances, it was really going to come back to haunt us. And kind of the irony of it was that the try when it came was absolutely out of nowhere. It was very much not the kind of the way the game been going so far. We've been battering on the door with no gain, and then all of a sudden a kind of a few passes out in midfield, and we found the edge, and Gibson Park is through. I did think Sam Prendergast had an awkward start. He was under a lot of pressure early on. So, a few kicks to nothing, few kicks just kind of either, not giving us anything to contest or giving England too much room to run it back at us. And I think, so much when your 10's under that much pressure and your 10's not able to kind of really take control of the game, the whole team is going to suffer. What I found interesting watching back today was actually, as Cian said, when you know what happens next, you can actually see the signs of it in those last 10 minutes of the second half. They are looking very tired. They are blowing. And, it kind of, in retrospect, the signs of what were going to happen in the second half were there. You obviously don't know that at the time, but they were starting to run out of energy. And even that try that we get, I don't think we scored 10 minutes earlier. I think they are starting to drop off. I think there's just space starting to open up that wasn't there before. But yeah, I was nervous going into halftime. I think we were the better team, and kind of you're holding on to that, but you're just thinking we need to start scoring soon. We need to get points on the board. Sooner or later, England are going to have another purple patch, and if we haven't managed to get more points on the board, then we're going to be in trouble. So yeah, I wasn't in the greatest mood heading into halftime, but equally, yeah, you kind of knew the game was there if we could just settle down into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, the halftime score was Ireland 5, England 10. Well, before we return to the pod, first a little reminder of all the different places you'll find us in the Ruggosphere, like our YouTube channel, where we post extra clips, including this week. The three of us are going to definitively settle the whole Jack v. Sam debate once and for all. Isn't that right, lads? Okay. Maybe not the enthusiasm I expected. No, seriously. Anyway, listen, to get access to all our latest content, as well as our presence on all the different social media platforms, you can bookmark us at linktree/Harpin On Rugby. We do most of our social media on Blue Sky, so do follow us there if you can. And please be sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe as needed. And so with the next score, absolutely crucial, it was Sam Prendergast kicking off the second half, Hugo.
Yeah, and things didn't actually start very well. So England managed to turn us over off shortly after the restart, and made their way into our half and into our 22. And it was only a forward pass from Mitchell in the build-up to stop quite a threatening looking attack. Luckily, off the subsequent scrum, the referee gave a penalty our way. I think if I was Ellis Genge, I'd be pretty annoyed about how that call went. I think he was a little bit hard done by there, but either way, we were able to clear our lines. And actually, again, though you don't know at the time, this will be the last time England are in our 22 for half an hour. From this point on, it really is all us on the up. And a couple of minutes later, Gibson Park sends a bit of a nothing kick actually into the 22 that it looks like Hayden Murley's going to deal with fairly easily, call the mark, give them an easy exit. When the kick first went up, I was like, oh God, they're just, it's another kick to nothing. Instead, Murley just kind of seems to lose it in the air, fails to regather it, actually touches it, and kind of so he has to then regather it in the English dead ball area. And we're able to kind of shove England back over the line for the scrum. And this is really the start of just an extended period of pressure from us. From this point on, for a long time, nothing really goes right for England. We're not able to kind of score off the immediate subsequent scrum. In the aftermath, there is a bit of a scrap between James Lowe and Freddie Stewart that leads to the ref giving a warning that the next person who goes flying into a melee is going to get yellow carded. A warning which I'm very thankful that he does not then keep to, but more on that later on. But we again, it started to feel a little bit frustrating, and we are hammering on the door and we're still not getting anything over. Actually, there's some really good English defense in this period where they are keeping us out. It's a point where off a line out, Kelleher gets turned over. It's really, really good work from the English defense. It's really physical as well. Shortly after that, Lawrence carries it out and just goes straight through Prendergast. They're really, it's real proper test match kind of heavyweight stuff. It was kind of, it's nerve-wracking to watch, but it really is. It's like where you see that kind of test match rugby really go up a level in that physicality. We're kind of still hammering on the door, but kind of not getting much out of it. 49th minute, Sheehan and Conan come on, and the impact they end up bringing off the bench is just huge. And again, we just seem to go up another level after that. Murley again shortly after, who really has a nightmare opening 20 minutes in the second half. Like rough on your first game for the national side, but he slices a clearance in his own 22 that we get a line out off of, and a few phases later, Prendergast manages to whip a pass out to Bundy Aki, who kind of bulldozes through Smith, and then it looks for all the world like he's gonna he's absolutely getting forced out over the line. Instead, he just manages to carry Mitchell and Freeman over the line with him, somehow manages to kind of just use that strength to kind of contort his body to get the ball down before he's forced into touch. It's a remarkable try. The strength you'd need to do it's just crazy. I think he had a relatively quiet game, as Keane said, for much of the game, but just having someone who can do that, having someone who has that ability to just make magic happen, it really was a difference maker in this game. Sam missed a tough conversion. I agree, Keane. The one earlier was that was a bad miss. This one was tough. Hard to blame him too much, but it does mean that we're still at 10-all. And shortly afterwards, Itoje gets given a very, very harsh penalty against him off a line out. The referee calls it for a bit of a push. Maybe there's something in that, but I know I'd have been pretty annoyed if that had gone against us, and Itoje looked pretty bemused.
That's karma. We got called on the unseen, usually unseen, the lesser spotted dark arts on the other end of the pitch for a try. He gets spotted on the lesser spotted dark arts in the line. Like, it's a subtle move, but it definitely affects the jumper in the line out, and it was right to be called, in my opinion, since we got called on the other end. So that's my bit on that.
And to be clear, while it would be livid if it had been called against us, it wasn't, and therefore it was very funny. So I was all for it. And then off Prendergast steps up to take the penalty. It's a long way out. I actually think this is pretty brave, kind of, putting your hand up, say, I can make this. And he nails it. He could have been 10 meters further out and he would have made it over. So it's a really, really good kick. I think it's a really good confidence settler for him. And it puts us into the lead, around the 55th minute mark for the first time in the game. And again, it just feels like we're just in the ascendancy now, kind of momentum starting to swing our way. Things just going wrong for England. They're botching kick receipts. They're just things not really working for them. Lowe does manage to kind of slice a kick out on the full, and England kind of come back at us, but they're running out of energy at this stage. You can see it. They're really running out of puff. They're not making those inroads they were earlier in the game. They're kind of battering up against our defensive line and just not going anywhere. And they're really just they don't look threatening. It's all us. 57th minute, Henshaw is on for Aki. Beelum shortly afterwards, what looks like a pretty bad ankle injury, gets his ankle caught under the ruck and sounded pretty bad, looked pretty bad. I hope Furlong's back next week because they're actually having gone into this with probably some better depth at tight head than we had for a while. All of a sudden, we're kind of back down to the kind of having to test the depth chart. I thought Clarkson played well when he came on. I assume we'll see Ainger called in if neither Furlong or Beelum are able to play next week. But we are starting to move down that depth chart a little bit. And crucially as well, shortly after this, Jack Crowley comes on for Prendergast. And I do think, while it's not the only reason that things start to look sharper, Crowley has a big impact on this game. He really is very impressive. We also bring Henderson on for Ryan shortly afterwards. We kind of, a lot of those changes starting to come in, and I think you see just us, that fresh energy. We just go up another level. And England really, they've barely been holding on to this stage, and they're not holding on really much anymore. Shortly afterwards, Cunningham South gives away a penalty for taking Keenan out in the air. This is where we get a little bit lucky that the referee decides not to hold to his early warning because Lowe goes flying in. I don't necessarily disagree with doing it, but I do disagree with doing it when the referee's told you very specifically that he's going to get yellow card anyone who does it again. So we do get away with that one a little bit, but instead we do get the penalty. We're able to send it into their half, and shortly afterwards, Gibson Park whips a pass out the back of the ruck. And it's a lovely attacking move. It's where we take advantage of actually their line speed. Cunningham South is up very quickly out of the line. What he has missed is that, so he's heading towards Byrne, I believe. What he has missed is that Lowe is hiding in behind Byrne. And just as the pass comes out, it's brilliant. I actually watched it again. It's really good fun to watch. It's
from behind the goal.
Just from in behind Byrne. And he whips in, and all of a sudden Cunningham South realizes that he's got it wrong, and the player he was covering is not the recipient at all. And Lowe is straight through. And he's able to then whip it back out to Byrne, who's able to crash over. And it's not great England defense, but actually it's a very clever move. We kind of took what they were showing us, and we managed to figure out a way around it. And Crowley kicks the conversion, puts us 20-10 up. And we're just really flying now at this stage. Crowley's really starting to conduct things very well. We're dictating the tempo. We're dictating where the ball's being played. England are struggling to get out of their half. Just momentum seems to be all with us. And this was probably the first point in the game where actually I started to the anxiety started to ease off a little bit. I was pretty confident from this point on that we were going to win, even if England managed to kind of step up a level. Again, shortly afterwards, Keenan sends through a grubber kick, and Murley, who, again, this 20 minutes from him really is not great. Whatever about the first one, the kind of first kick he doesn't deal with, where he does touch it, the ball in flight, and so he kind of has to deal with it and try and carry it out of his own dead ball area. I don't understand what he's doing here. The ball runs through into the dead ball area, and rather than dot it down, I can only assume, I don't know what he's seeing, but he picks it up and tries to run it out. It's an insane thing to do. And it means he ends up getting hauled into touch by Keenan and Lowe. We're not able to kind of make anything of the subsequent line out, but it puts England back under unnecessary pressure again, and we're just laying siege to them. And shortly thereafter, Sheehan is really just the architect of what comes next. He takes the ball from Gibson Park, draws in two tacklers, and sends just a lovely little pop pass out to send Conan running through the gap, and we're able to recycle. Whip it out to the left. Sheehan again, who's got back to his feet, sends a lovely pass out to Lowe on the left wing. I know there's some people who said they thought this was forward. It does leave his hands going backwards, although it did look a little bit dubious on first glance. Lowe does really well because he has to kind of leap up to kind of gather the ball. It's a bit of a high pass. He was able to take it down, leave Freeman for dead. Poor Freeman had a horrible time with James Lowe on the wing yesterday. Leave Freeman for dead. Race down the wing and put the ball back to the side for Sheehan to dot down very emphatically over the line. And that then Crowley nails a conversion. That's a very tricky conversion. And that's us 27-10 up on the 71 minute mark. It's game over at this stage. And slightly frustratingly, the Irish defense also seems to kind of pack it in at this stage. We do give away in the last 5 minutes two tries that I don't think we're conceding in different scenarios. Kind of some pretty soft tackles. Healy slips off a tackle in the build up to Tom Curry's. Henshaw slips off a tackle in the build up to their second after the 80-minute mark. In the middle of all this, so just say Tom Curry's try. It is the first time they've been back in our 22 since the 42nd or 43rd minute. They have not been in the game at all in that second half. We were a little bit unlucky that Conan in the middle of these two tries, Conan has a break down the right wing. Murley, I think, gets a little bit lucky that his tackle to put Conan into touch isn't looked at again. But the kind of the two late scores, it's frustrating to give them a losing bonus point, but it puts a gloss on the scoreline for England because it makes the game, it finishes 27-22, makes the game look on the scoreboard much closer than it was. We blew them away in the second half. It was really satisfying to watch, and it's just a little bit frustrating that we even let them back in as much as we did, even with the game won. But yeah, felt much better on the 80-minute mark than I did on the 40-minute mark.
Yeah, it was. We definitely felt a lot easier as that half progressed. It was. Like you were talking about the English forwards that tired themselves out, or the English team, the defense tiring themselves out, but they had the 6-2 bench for that. But there's only so much that's going to get you. They put so much into that first 10, 15 minutes. I think that it was we were just kind of relentless and hitting them in the right areas. And I think you're right about you were talking about Caden Murley, but this kind of bleeds into the Sam Prendergast discussion as well. Like six nations, especially the first game of the Six Nations, you get no warm-up games. It's an attritional competition. So if you're making your debut, it is a step up from what you're used to. Even if you played games in November, it's different. It's definitely a different level. It's something to get used to. And this was definitely an example of that. James Lowe, I mean, he was influential in so many tries. He played such a role in all of them. He had that little patch where he had a couple of kicks out in the full up the wing, but even then, you can see he's trying to put us on the front foot. He's trying to bring that X factor. That's what you get with that kind of player. You're going to get a couple of mistakes, but for every one mistake, you get one or two moments of magic, and he was right there involved, and he gave them a terrible time up that wing. For sure. And that try, you described that brilliantly. He was hiding behind Byrne. When you see it from the angle from behind the goal, you can just see him. He's even crouching down behind him. And yeah, exactly. And then he springs, but then Byrne goes with him as well. We were watching it here at home the next morning, had the wife watching with him. He's going, no, watch this. I had to get up and go to the telly. I was doing my Matt Williams. Now there he is there, and he's going to go here, and he's going to go there. And he's going to get the pass. It was brilliant. Brilliant try. But of course, Dan Sheehan, that try that he got, he was involved at the start of that as well. He put a pass through to Conan. I think it was his pass to Lowe as well. He did a kind of a missed pass, and then there he is on the end of it as well. Great impact off the bench for sure. Those I wasn't crazy about those two tries at the end. It did annoy me at the time, but like you say, if it was it's weird. If it was closer, it wouldn't have happened. We kind of took our foot off the pedal as well. Getting that bonus point, which we would have taken at the start, no question. It was just really good to see overall. I mean, like you say, they got a bonus point for themselves out of it. So maybe that early start and their kind of game plan, maybe they kind of deserved it a bit. But we were definitely the better team of the day. It was deserved win, and no doubt about that. What's your take, Keno?
Pretty well covered there between you lads, I have to say. Yeah, it's hard to get past really the impact of the bench. To be honest, I think, well, actually, I'm gonna get onto most of this in the full match wrap bits. Really,
Yeah.
It was that second half was the tail of the bench making the difference, and it reminded me actually a little bit of the bomb squad, the South African approach, but it actually had the desired impact as well. And it was just that it didn't need the 6-2 to do that. It just needed the right people.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to bring Dan Sheehan off of the bench, and in fairness, Crowley as well, players of their ability and game-changing ability is just, it's it's a luxury that Irish rugby has not known for quite some time. And also, frankly, having a lot of experience in your bench is a good thing. Um, I know people want the bright new young things all the time, and we all do. It's fun. It's more fun to watch new people kind of grow and get better. But the old players are old players who are still players because they're good. They know what they're
Mm,
doing. They have been in almost every situation you can be in a rugby pitch and know how to come out the right side of it.
yeah.
And you can't just jettison that. And to see Conor Murray and Cian Healy still being able to play at the top level, yeah, they probably don't have many matches left in them at this point. But the fact that they're still able to do it, it brings me joy as a very old man at this point in terms of rugby player ages. When you start out aging the coaches, you know it's getting bad.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say on the first half for now.
Absolutely, and Cian Healy might be in the conversation himself for tight head as well. I mean, he's he can do both sides as well. So it's amazing that he's still involved. And just one last thing. Those we were talking about the importance of getting the first score in that second half. Now it took us a while to do it, but you could argue those situations where you force England over the line to top dot down over their line. You know, the chasing players gang up on him, get him over the line. That's a real pumping experience. That's a real rousing experience for the team to achieve that, even if you don't get the try straight away from the 5 meter scrum. But to do it, they did it a couple of times in those early stages in the second half, and that really helps get us going. So that was a factor as well. But anyway, listen, it all played out to an Irish bonus point win, and like we said, the final score was Ireland 27, England 22. Elsewhere in the Six Nations, once again, the tournament kicked off in Paris, and for the most part, there were no surprises at the Stade de France as Les All Stars de Antoine Dupont comfortably put Warren's winless Welsh away by 43 points to nil, with the only wrinkle to their performance being the thoroughly deserved and thoroughly needless red card shipped in the latter stages by Roman Ntamak, which should see him missing some matches. Then at lunchtime on Saturday, Scotland threw away a 13-point lead against Italy before eventually pulling away to secure their own bonus point victory. All of that leaves Ireland, France, and Scotland on 5 points. England's losing bonus has them fourth, with Italy and Wales giving their meeting next weekend in Rome a distinct wooden spoon playoff vibe. Meanwhile, in the sixth round of the Women's Celtic Challenge competition, both Irish sides racked up big scores, with the Clovers whitewashing Brighton Thunder 58-0, and the Wolfhounds remaining top of the table with a 64-21 win at Scottstown against the Glasgow Warriors. But going back to our feature match from Saturday, afterwards, Simon Easterby had this to say, quote, "I thought the guys who came off the bench benefited from the hard work that had been done in the first 50, 60 minutes. And to be fair, they were brilliant," end quote. And from the fans' point of view, at the full-time whistle, Kevin Callahan said this on our Facebook page, quote, "Bench was the difference. Conan was clinical. Dan was Dan as only Dan can be Dan. Tom Clarkson stood up to Ellis Genge, who was technically intimidating, and Jack Crowley kept it simple and flowing," end quote. Do you disagree, or would you have said the same thing a different way? Well, we always leave a post open on the Facebook page after Leinster and Ireland matches. Why don't you join in the conversation next time? And so now this brings us to our final thoughts, starting with Kino.
Yeah, it was a tale of two halves, that one, really. As much as I love to rely on an old cliche, yeah, we were wasteful in the first half. We did a lot of things. We did a lot of things actually very well. A lot more of them than I thought we did when I first watched the match back. When I first watched the match live, but we were wasteful. We got into the 22 far more often than I thought we would, but came away with nothing way too many times. Yeah, partly due to England pressure. Their defense was good pretty much throughout. Their attack waned hugely as as the match went on, and I think really between the jigs and the reels, what it comes down to is that their game plan was outthought. Um, I mean, the shockwaves that announcing an early team on the Tuesday sent rippled through Irish society didn't quite have the same impact I think they might have hoped it did. And honestly, I think there's a reason they call having three open sides in the back row unbalanced. It's because it is unbalanced. It doesn't work. It's great for some stuff, but even at that, like they gave away the line out completely. Did they gain much in open play? the numbers don't back that up. We forced 16 turnovers through breakdown pressure, including 6 through dominant tackles. And they did not. I think they got 10 turnovers off of us. Maybe for a team that's playing 3 open sides, you should be getting double what we're getting. Otherwise, what's the point? They had a heavier pack than we did, and yet we're playing a rush blitz. That doesn't make any sense. Why are you playing big lads and mobile lads, and you're making them all run really fast? So you're going to get dog legs and tired forwards and a tired pack after half an hour, and then we bring on a really strong bench. And I think that's why we had the really strong bench planned out as we did. It was a bit of reaction as well to the autumn internationals when we probably didn't use the bench as well as we did. I think we used it to its best possible ability in this game. It really does show what we can do with a bench when we need to. Certainly when we tailor it to a team sheet that we've gotten a couple of days early. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I mean, they had to do something different the way it's gone. I mean, they did have that win over us last year, but since then, I think they just had 2 wins over Japan, either side of a 5-game losing streak. So they really needed to try something different. And like you say, they did, starting early in the week, naming the team, all these extra bits like we're different and fair play, they did it. But just because you do something different doesn't mean it's the right thing. And also you've got Ireland ready there, laying wait, ready for them. And we were ready for them eventually. I mean, it took a while for us to get going, but once we did, we were able to exert ourselves on the game and get the scores. And like you say, we had that. We were ready with the better bench. It was an amazing bench for us to bring on anyway, and we just got the most out of it.
Yeah, but I mean, also they were able to keep it tight for the first half, but then they ended up giving us a 5-point log lead. There's no point in doing that.
Yeah,
there's no point in having an heroic first half and then absolutely giving away as many points. Like, I wasn't expecting to get a five points out of this. I was hoping for a win. I was hoping for a win first, and then a good win, and then maybe a try bonus, but that seems unlikely. And they absolutely gave it to us. They handed it to us on a silver platter.
Yeah, well, when you compare it to, was it 2021? Was it during COVID or something? They came to the Aviva and they hit us from the start and rolled over us, and we just literally couldn't respond. And I think they were just sort of counting on that happening again. But I think we're just more resilient. We're just better. I think that platform, the consistent line out platform, even though we didn't always score off it, just to know it's there and you're not nervous going up. You've got a 5-meter line out, whatever, and at least you're confident you're going to have it and you're going to set yourself up and stuff. I think that helped us. Scrums weren't too bad either. It was just, we were just able to match what they brought. And that's, you can't ask really for more than that, especially if you end up with a bonus point. What did you think, Hugo?
Yeah, I mean, so similar to Keno, like, rough first half, much better second half. That second half is the best we've played since at least the tour down South Africa last summer. It's much better than any second half we produced over the autumn, and it's a reminder that I know there has been some angst about Irish rugby, but there's a reminder that when we hit our straps, we are a very, very, very good team. England couldn't deal with it at all. I thought there was some really great performances. I thought Jameson Gibson-Park was absolutely phenomenal. Obviously kind of his attacking play, his passing and kicking, we know it's really good. One of the things about watching it back, defensively, he is everywhere in this game. He makes a couple of really big tackles. There's one, you mentioned where he makes a tackle on Freeman, I think, on the wing.
He was the one Irish player with 2 dominant tackles listed in the stats. Yeah. And there was only one English player with 2 dominant tackles. That was Ben Earls. They're number 8.
And there was a couple of ones. There's one where he and Doris kind of pick up a Toje and dump him to the ground. There's one where he goes flying into a ruck and clears out the ruck by himself. Yep. For a small guy, he just packs so much of a punch, but he is everywhere. The work rate on this guy is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it's since he shaved his head. It's like having a small Jason Statham on your team.
He's like the anti-Samson.
Yeah.
But like, so I can fully understand why he was made player of the match. He was brilliant, and kind of, as you say, Jeff, you've got Antoine Dupont doing Antoine Dupont things, but Gibson-Park, really, when he's at his best, he really does do some magic things. My personal player of the match would have been James Lowe. not only is he directly involved in 3 of our 4 tries, you watch it back, he's just everywhere. So many of our good moments during the game, he is involved somewhere. I mentioned earlier, he gave Freeman a horrible time down in that wing. It felt like every time the ball was going out to him, he was beating that first defender. Space was opening up, and they were not able to deal with him. He is obviously only just back from an injury. His game for Leinster against Stormers last week was brilliant. He was brilliant again yesterday. And he just because he was looking a little bit out of sorts over the autumn, I think, and he just looks back to his best. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And then you talked about it, but the bench, having players like Dan Sheehan to be able to come off the bench is amazing. Conan was brilliant. Crowley, I thought, was really, really great when he came back on. And it just gave us that kind of, we didn't have this in the autumn. It felt like we faded out of a lot of games. The bench didn't give the impact we needed it to give. Having that kind of energy come in the 50, 60-minute mark, and England were just not able to deal with it. I do think England played some smart rugby at times. I think they were, they had their moments in that first half. They showed that with good line speeds and kind of a good aggression at the ruck, it is possible to disrupt our game. I think the problem is that ultimately they didn't have the kind of the depth or the energy to just keep that up the whole time. And it meant that, they just kind of fell apart in the second half a little bit. They just kind of blown their energy, and that was that. France, I think, will be a different story when we get to them. I think Scotland might well be a different story when we get to them next week. So there's a long way in this tournament still to go, but a very positive start. I didn't think we'd be taking 5 points back from this game. So to start a tournament this way with quite a kind of, I think a major statement of a performance. I know those last 2 tries were frustrating, but I think anyone who watched the game will know how dominant we really were in that second half. So it's a great start, and really looking forward to Scotland next week now and seeing how we kick on from here.
Absolutely. And just one last thing on James Lowe. I mean, you mentioned he was lucky he wasn't brought up on running in when that penalty, and you're right. But his face coming out of those Shimazas is brilliant, because you just see if you see a body, whatever, and everyone's fighting and everyone's angry, but he's got the biggest, broadest grin on his face. Whatever's happened, if he's down on top of someone's hitting him, whatever, he's just smiling as if to say, like, what, just bring it, man. It's a great attitude to have.
If you're doing what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
Oh, one last thing.
Yep.
I love Dan Sheehan. I
Okay.
think everyone here loves Dan Sheehan. But it should be pointed out that with the try he scored, he is now, that was his 9th in the Six Nations. That puts him top forward try scorer in the history of the Six Nations, along with Harden Ordike, Heaslip, and Olivon. He's got,
and he's going to bust that.
Do you think there's a chance Sheehan might score one more try in this Six Nations game?
I have a feeling. I've got a hunch. He might just get lucky on the back of a line out maul. You know what I mean? And just follow over the line. That's not even the way. I mean, he scores those as well, but it's the runs up the wing are the ones that he gets most. But it's that's an amazing stat for sure.
Yeah, so that was just a little update from the Dan Sheehan fan club, of which I am president and founding member.
Well, that's brilliant, lads. Many thanks again to Keno and Hugo for joining me. Hope to have you back on again soon. Thanks, lads.
Thanks very much, all.
As for our next batch of Harpin, we'll have our 80+ column posting on Wednesday. Then we'll be turning our attention to our next Six Nations assignment in Murrayfield next weekend. So please be sure to follow us on any or all of our social media platforms, which you'll find at linktree/Harpin On Rugby. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.